Hey Atlanta, say hello to Small Business Help from Apple. That's right, we're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/smallbusiness or visit an Apple store to learn more.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I am delighted to have you. We got a lot of news that is happening out there right now today, and I gotta bring you up to speed on a developing story that we wish was not so. There appears to be a school shooting in Madison, Wisconsin at Abundant Life Christian School. There are reports of injuries. The shooter is down. Police have scrambled to the scene. We actually don't know any more than this at this time. And I refuse to comment on speculated casualties and injuries in stories like this because so much information comes fast and furious and winds up being wrong. But there are ambulances and police at the scene. This is a K-12 school in Madison, Wisconsin. I will keep my eye on the story. I will bring you up to speed whenever I get information. In the meantime, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, you can get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, everything you need to stick around and stick with us even when you're traveling to the holidays. I will be out on Monday next week, but I will be back on Christmas Eve. I don't have a guest host ever on Christmas Eve. Do it myself Christmas Eve, and on Christmas Day, we'll repeat my Christmas show from Christmas Eve. Joby Martin from Big Church down in Jacksonville, Florida, among others, will be joining me on the Christmas Eve show. Looking forward to it. We need to talk about mass deportations because there are a whole lot of people who seem to be very upset at the idea of mass deportations, and I am not one of them. So let me just, at a very basic level, explain this to those of you who cannot believe on mass deportations, that I would support this. Our laws have to mean something or not. Our laws have to mean something or not. And one of the laws in this country is that we have a border, and that those who come across into our country illegally are not supposed to be here. And yet, what has happened is in this country, we have allowed a mass migration event into this country, and we have not secured our border. Going back to the earliest days of civilization, borders meant something. Borders have to mean something. If you don't have a border, you're not a nation. The Roman Empire expanded and contracted its border over time. The Romans built Hadrian's Wall and then another wall as well. They ultimately abandoned that wall. Now it was the I can't remember now, but they retreated back to Hadrian's Wall and kept it till the Romans fled the island Britain. The Chinese famously built the Great Wall of China. Many countries used rivers as their borders and boundaries. Even in this country, as we started, our western boundary for a time began to be the Mississippi River and the Ohio River, and then expanded across into new territories, and finally all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Over time, countries discovered and agreed on lines of latitude and longitude and coordinates and GPS to help determine boundaries. But most countries, in most places, the boundaries were determined historically by mountains or rivers, by natural features, but they meant something. And if you crossed over from one kingdom to another, from one land to another, there were repercussions if you went without permission. And only in this country in the 21st century has one party, the Democrats, gotten the idea that the border doesn't matter. The border matters. And now, using their friends and acolytes in the media, as Donald Trump says he wishes to begin mass deportations, now, after flooding the country with all of the illegal immigrants, now they're worried about the cost of getting rid of them. It's going to cost billions, they say. And it's a lie, by the way. It is a lie. You know how I know it's a lie? Because if Donald Trump announces that the roundups are going to begin immediately, guess what's going to happen? Many people will self-deport. They'll pack up and leave. So the cost is a static cost on the idea that you got to round up all the illegal immigrants. But many of the illegal immigrants are going to leave before Donald Trump can find them because they don't want to be put in a detention facility and wait for processing. They're just going to go on their own. But also, so what? Notice that members of the press, they weren't all that concerned about the cost when it came to social services being overtaxed. Let's go back, dare I say, to Springfield, Ohio. Hi, Springfield. Y'all know who the number one midday talk show host is in Springfield, Ohio? You're listening to him. Hi, WHIO. I love you. I'll come visit you soon. Yes, I'm on the radio there in Miami Valley and in Dayton and Springfield and the like. Wonderful people. I look forward to going to see them. And a lot of them listen. And they called. And they talked about the lines at emergency rooms, the backups, the backlogs, about the tax social services, the cost to schools for interpreters. They talked about the costs to sanitation and sewage. This was one of the wilder ones, had multiple people call. It's a real thing. They were overwhelmed with Haitian immigrants, and they said, look, they're not eating the pets. There was no eating of the pets. What there was in Haiti, there's not good sanitation and trash pickup and social services, and so they would just dump their trash, and their trash would get into the sewer system and back up the sewer system, and the costs went up to have to deal with the waste management. They had to find people who could speak Creole, who could go and talk to the Haitians and say, you know, this is America. We have this thing called regular trash pickup. You put your trash in a trash can and somebody's going to come by once a week like magic before you're even awake, and they're going to cart it all away. Don't throw it down the sewage line. Don't throw it into the ditch. Put it in this bin, and in a week it'll disappear. It's magic. They had to find people and pay people to deliver the message. The local public health system overwhelmed. Costs go up. And it's not just Springfield, Ohio, where that happened. It happened in New York City. It's happened in Chicago. It's happened in major cities. one of the smartest things Republicans have ever done, and Republicans are a stupid party, one of the smartest things they ever did is they bust the illegal immigrants into blue areas of the country and made them have to deal with them so they could see the cost to the social services, so they could see the cost to the homelessness and housing and crime and all the other issues that went up. And now the Democrats are bellyaching about the cost of getting these people out here. How much will we save in social services? How much will we save in law enforcement? How much will we save in health care? How much will we save in housing costs? You know, one of the reasons we have a housing crisis among the poor in this country is we're housing a bunch of illegal aliens in houses that could be higher housing American citizens. We have homeless shelters that can't house the homeless, or I'm sorry, the unhoused, because they're housing the illegal immigrants, also known as the undocumented migrant, because the Democrats are too chicken and to say it's an illegal alien. I don't care about the cost. It's the right thing to do. If you keep disrespecting the law, do not think that's the only law that will be disrespected. When you decide one law is negotiable, don't expect to be the same person to arbitrate which other laws can be negotiated or not. Don't think that you have the power to do that. You don't have the power to do that. When you say the border doesn't matter, Democrats in charge of the country right now, guess what? A lot of people are going to say, well, if they don't think that law matters, I don't think this law matters. Either the law matters or it doesn't. We either have a border or we don't have a border. And I think we should have a border. Surround them up and deport them. And by the way, they're not all going to get deported. In fact, Trump's going to deport far fewer than I want him to deport. But he's going to start with the lawbreakers and the people who've already been ordered to deport. You know, a couple million people have already been ordered to deport, and they haven't done so. Those are the first people who are going to self-deport. The ones who know that Donald Trump's coming looking for me because I got an order of deportation. I better go now while I can, or I'm going to be put in a holding cell somewhere down in Texas. And summer is coming, and it's going to be hot. I want you to pay attention to the number of people who think that cost is the big issue. I want you to pay attention to the number of people who think that cost is the predominant concern, not respect for the rule of law, not respect for American citizens, not respect for those who came here legally. They weren't concerned. They tried to dismiss the claims about the gangbangers. They tried to dismiss the claims about the Haitians in Springfield. They tried to dismiss the claims about illegal immigrant crime in New York City. They tried constantly to dismiss all the claims, all the reality, all the truth. They tried to dismiss it all. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh, it's going to cost too much. Who's going to pay for this? Who's paying for them to be here? You and me. Who's paying for the cost of social services? Not them. They're not paying. We are. And the fact that the Democrats and members of the media think this is a compelling talking point, that it's going to cost too much. What they're really worried about is their housekeepers and their landscapers. They're worried about the illegal immigrants that they have put into a second class of serfs in this country. They're worried they're going to have to do their own dishes. They're worried they're going to have to cut their own grass. They don't care about the border. They don't care about you and me. They don't care about our taxes. They don't care about the societal cost. They don't care about any of that. They very selfishly care about themselves, and they can't admit it. And so they have to say, well, it's going to cost too much. It's going to cost you. You're actually going to have to pay someone minimum wage instead of below minimum wage to watch your kids when you're gone to work all day. You're going to have to pay someone actual living wage to cut your grass. Some of the most malcontented racists I know in this country are Democrats who care deeply about illegal immigration because they want a serf class taking care of them for the cheap. They don't want to actually respect these people and treat them like human beings. And you know, if you want to respect and treat someone like a human being, you want that person to also obey your laws. And the first law these people need to obey is respect our borders. Come here with consent. Otherwise, don't come here at all. This isn't hard. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. I want to go to the phones to Clayton. Welcome to the show, Clayton. How are you?
I'm good, Eric. How are you?
Great.
I just want to say I appreciate listening to you. Hope your wife and your kids are doing well.
Thank you so much. I've got to just say, my oldest was kind enough to bring me coffee today. It's nice to have a kid old enough to drive.
Well, I'm sure that's a new experience.
Yeah.
So my question is, I'm going to simplify it as easy as possible. When you've got these mayors and governors saying they're going to protect people with ICE detainers and not report them to ICE, if they get released and commit a crime, which has happened, the extent of the crime could be argued about. But could the victim of that crime not sue the municipality that hid the ICE detainer from ICE?
So that's a great question, Clayton. I wish that were the case, and it's not. And the reason it's not is because constitutionally, we are actually prohibited from suing states or even the federal government in the U.S. Constitution unless they consent to be sued. And what I personally think Congress should do is Congress can pass a law and say that any city or state that harbors an illegal alien can be sued by someone who might be a victim of that person.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, I think Congress should do that. Yeah,
I would agree.
Vehemently think that Congress says, so under the Constitution, we can't sue unless a law is passed giving us the right to sue for something. And this is one of those things where I think Congress can use the supremacy clause under the Constitution and say every state and municipality that harbors illegal immigrants opens themselves to lawsuit. If you're the victim of a crime of an illegal alien, you get to sue the state unless that state takes affirmative steps to cooperate with the federal government. The other thing that I think Congress should do is pass a law, very simple to do. There's historic precedent for it, and say, sorry, you don't get federal funds if you have sanctuary cities or you're a sanctuary state. No federal money for you for anything if you operate a sanctuary city or are a sanctuary state. I think we should be denying federal funds for that. I very much believe it. We've got to deter illegal immigration. We'll take more of your phone calls when we come back. 877-973-7425. First, though, I got to tell you about Old Glory Bank. They actually did me a solid over the weekend. I've got a couple of different bank accounts, and one of them I realized I had taken money from, and I had already cleared it out and moved all the money to Old Glory Bank and had just forgotten to close the account down. Did it by accident, and I was able to move money lightning fast back thanks to Old Glory Bank. They make it so easy. Their app is so great. So I didn't get an overdraft at the old bank, and today I actually called them this morning and closed down that account, took care of everything. Old Glory Bank really is a great bank. They're by conservatives for conservatives. They are super efficient in how they operate. They have a great app. But also, as a conservative, you're never going to be targeted by your bank because they're conservatives too. John Rich, Larry Elder, Ben Carson, people like that. You can get a bank account for your business there as well. They've got checking and savings. They've got competitive rates. They do mortgages. They do lines of credit, home equity. They do car loans, business loans, you name it. All you have to do is go to oldglorybank.com. You can get your account right there online, oldglorybank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I want to go to the phones to Chris, who's been waiting patiently. Welcome, Chris. How are you?
Hey, I appreciate your comments earlier about our borders and our need to enforce our border laws, but I wanted to throw out a little historical context. In my opinion, historically, borders existed as far as an empire or a kingdom could project its power. And rivers and mountain ranges really helped with that. But the idea of lines on a piece of paper to my understanding, came out after the end of the 30 Years' War with the Treaty of Westphalia, where they actually came up with the concept of a fixed border, and also part of that was the need to defend that border. Does that sound like your
the
understanding
Peace of
where
Westphalia
came
came
from?
up with in kind of the dividing line as well between ancient times and modern times there. Yes, you're right. It was European concept, but the Europeans like to say it was their concept, but for the very same reason, even in Asia, borders became and oftentimes was territory that had to be defended, and they would pick, particularly in Asia, rivers on which to draw their boundaries between one area and the next, one kingdom and the next. And it was about defense, among other things, but also it very quickly did become, even in Roman times, people who were outside the kingdom versus inside the kingdom, people outside the empire versus inside the empire. And when they crossed over into the border, what rights they had and what liabilities they had coming in. And this concept goes all the way back to the Romans. The Romans, as Chris is saying, they would expand their empire as far as they possibly could, and on many occasions rolled the empire back and then moved forward again over time under different emperors. But when you came into the empire as a foreigner, you were protected under the laws of Rome as a guest within the empire, but you had liabilities as well. And if they wanted you to leave, you had to leave their territory. And that is a modern concept of borders, and it's built on the old concept. But it is about defensible territory and everything, but also it is about as well the identity of individuals within that territory and who those people are and who those people are not. And that matters. Michael, you're going to be up next. Welcome. How are you?
Well, I was doing fine until I heard this idiotic comment about the cost of mass deportation that I'm assuming the Democrats are left. So just to preface this, I live in Georgia, and my favorite team is the Georgia Bulldogs. Any person, Democrat or left, that raises issues about cost, they should be made to take a call from Lincoln Riley's parents. They have paid the highest cost for illegal aliens being here. They lost their daughter, a beautiful young woman that was a nursing student. She was a Christian, great person, and the only thing she did wrong was be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The illegal alien from a Venezuelan gang that was led in by Biden and Harris, led out twice by New York, flown at our cost to Georgia to have that despicable crime. These people should be made to take that call and understand what a cost is. And I was doing fine until then, but that struck a nerve. I enjoy your program. I certainly learned a lot, but thank you.
Yeah, Michael, listen, I agree with you. The mass migration cost from the left is a talking point, and it is a talking point designed to scare people about fiscal matters. And I just think that people are able to balance these things together. They should be able to balance these things together. It's just it's bizarre to me that no, it's not really bizarre. I shouldn't say that. I understand why they're doing it. They have no other argument. It's bizarre to me. This is the one they decided to settle on. Hey, let's make it about cost. It's not really. I mean, the cost is to Michael's point. Lincoln Riley murdered by an illegal immigrant who Joe Biden let come into the country. What is the value of her life? What is the value of all the lives of people added up who were taken by illegal aliens? Now, before you call in progressive and you say, what about all the people in this country whose lives were lost by legal people? Well, those people are already here and have a right to be here. How much more do we deal with because of those who have no right to be here and came and Joe Biden let them stay? And it is notable last week, even the New York Times finally was willing to speak on the subject and say that, there actually is a massive cost to housing, and it's actually keeping wages down. Wages in this country, the New York Times projects, would have gone up higher had we not existed with so much illegal labor in the workforce. No respect for the rule of law. Now, I got to move on. Those of you on the phones, be patient, but I got to talk about this. And I want to say this out of the gate here. I know many of you are not fans of Mitch McConnell for various reasons. I myself been a longtime critic of Mitch McConnell's, and I invited him to come to my gathering this year as a critic of McConnell's We actually had a great conversation on stage. He has been very kind to me, even though I have criticized him in the past. And it is in large part because we have found some common ground. One is on judges. You may hate Mitch McConnell. You may not wish to say one kind thing about Mitch McConnell, but the reality is you have the Supreme Court you have because of Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell refused to even hold a hearing on Merrick Garland, let alone put him to a vote. Mitch McConnell held the line on Merrick Garland, and then it was Mitch McConnell who pushed through Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett. And on Kavanaugh, let's not forget, when you say, well, any Republican in the Senate would have done that, Trent Lott would not have done it. I was around back in the day when Trent Lott was the majority leader in the Senate. Bill Frist wouldn't have done it. I was around when he was the majority leader in the Senate. Bob Dole would not have done it. I was around. Those three would not have dug their heels in and made a fight about it. They wouldn't have. They always took the path of least resistance. Mitch McConnell dug his heels in on Brett Kavanaugh and said, we will get this man across the finish line. And it was Mitch McConnell who persuaded Jeff Flake and others to vote for Brett Kavanaugh, which is why you have the conservative Supreme Court you have. It was Mitch McConnell who steered the Senate to stay in session and confirm Amy Coney Barrett after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. That was McConnell. Yes, Donald Trump nominated these people, but it is the Senate that also matters, and McConnell leveraged his power as the longest-serving majority leader in the Senate, or longest-serving Republican leader in the Senate, to get his troops in line and withstand the fire. And he cut deals with Lisa Murkowski, and he cut deals with Susan Collins, and back in the day with Olympia Snowe, and others who wavered on these nominees to support them in their races in primaries against other Republicans in exchange for their votes, for difficult votes for members of the judiciary. And we have our judiciary the way we have it, the way you want it, the way you like it, because of Mitch McConnell. So though it may pain you to say anything nice about the man, you should at least consider that. He has a piece in Foreign Affairs. The headline is The Price of American Retreat, Why Washington Must Reject Isolationism and Embrace Primacy. And on this, like with judges, Mitch McConnell and I see eye to eye. The picture at the beginning of this piece is of Chinese soldiers flying the Chinese flag at a military exercise in China. When he begins his second term as president, Donald Trump will inherit a world far more hostile to U.S. interests than the one he left behind 4 years ago. China has intensified its efforts to expand its military, political, and economic influence worldwide. Russia is fighting a brutal and unjustified war in Ukraine. Iran remains undeterred in its campaign to destroy Israel, dominate the Middle East, and develop a nuclear weapons capability. And these three U.S. adversaries, along with North Korea, are now working together more closely than ever to undermine the U.S.-led order that has underpinned Western peace and prosperity for nearly a century. The Biden administration sought to manage these threats through engagement and accommodation. But today's revanchist powers do not seek deeper integration with the existing international order. They reject its very basis. They draw strength from American weakness, and their appetite for hegemony has only grown with the eating. Many in Washington acknowledge the threat, but use it to justify existing domestic policy priorities that have little to do with the systemic competition underway. They pay lip service to the reality of great power competition, but shirk from investing in the hard power on which such competition is actually based. The cost of these mistaken assumptions has become evident, but the response to 4 years of weakness must not be 4 years of isolation. Even though the competition with Russia and China is a global challenge, Trump will no doubt hear from some that he should prioritize a single theater and downgrade U.S. interests and commitments elsewhere. Most of these voices will argue for focusing on Asia at the expense of interests in Europe or the Middle East. Such thinking is commonplace among both isolationist conservatives who indulge the fantasy of Fortress America and progressive liberals who mistake internationalism for an end in itself. The right has retrenched in the face of Russian aggression in Europe, while the left has demonstrated a chronic allergy to deterring Iran and supporting Israel. Neither camp has committed to maintaining the military superiority or sustaining the alliances needed to contest revisionist powers. If the United States continues to retreat, its enemies will only be too happy to fill the void. I got to tell you, and it goes on from there, that sounds like one of my radio monologues. There are people in this country on both sides of the aisle. It is not just the left or the right who want to retreat from the world stage. And the problem is, if you retreat from the world stage, you've just given more space to our enemies and adversaries. There's this idea that, if we would just leave other people alone, they would leave us alone, except that's not true. There's also this idea that, the United States is kind of invulnerable where we are. We've got the Pacific and we've got the Atlantic, we've got Canada, we have Mexico, except the Chinese are using the Mexicans to flood the United States with drugs. The Chinese are coming across the Pacific and the Atlantic through cables to hack our systems. They're also sneaking people across the Canadian and the Mexican border while also dabbling in Canadian politics to shape a parliament that China wants. There has not been enough attention on the fact that the Chinese and Justin Trudeau's government have collaborated to a degree. The Chinese have interfered in American elections as well, and then the Russians are just as bad. The Russians are not our friends. Vladimir Putin decided to form an alliance with Iran, with North Korea, and with China. They are our enemies. They think we're weak, and they think we're ready to go back to bed. In World War II, it was the Japanese admiral who said he was afraid they had woken a sleeping giant. That sleeping giant is ready to go back to sleep, and it can't. Because if it does, bad things will happen to our interests abroad and at home. McConnell has been vilified by some who wish to retreat from the world as a pawn of China because of his wife's family's interests. It's simply not true. McConnell has been warning for way longer than most people that China was a danger and we needed to treat it as a threat and not as an ally. When all you people hadn't even heard of what most favored nation status was before you got upset about free trade, McConnell was one of the ones suggesting China needed to not have that status anymore. He's right. If I could implore the incoming Trump administration to do one thing, it's to do this: to remember that America first means America in first place. And to be first place in the world, we have to compete in the world. And I would remind President-elect Trump that it was Barack Obama who decided we did not need a military strategy that involved us winning wars in two spheres. The willful idiots of the Obama administration actually came up with a plan that they could cut our military such that we could win one theater while holding our own in the other until we'd won the first one, as opposed to the U.S. military strategy since World War II has always been we need a military capable of winning on two fronts at the same time. That signaled weakness to the Chinese, and it was a signal to Xi Jinping and his predecessors in China that we could be taken. We must reinvest in our military. We must do it wisely. We must do it without the graft and greed and corruption that gives us an F-35 program that we don't really need and isn't really functional. We must be willing to use our money abroad to win friends and influence people who would rather be on our side than their side. Either we're going to lead or we're going to be shoved out of the way. That's McConnell's point, and that's my point as well. There are lots of people who think we can just withdraw from the world. We can't. We are too integrated into the world. We will either lead the world or we will be led around by the nose by China. It is our choice. Decline is a choice. And Mitch McConnell says he refuses to make the choice to decline. None of us should make the choice to decline. Hillsdale College spends a lot of time talking about these things, but right now they want to talk to you about Christmas. And they actually have an English professor on campus who's giving away for free a series of lectures on A Christmas Carol that you can watch at your own pace. You can kind of see what kids at Hillsdale College go through, but also you can do it for yourself and get educated on the background, the meaning, the themes, and the undercurrents of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. You can do it completely for free. It is 6 classes. They're about 30 minutes each. They're videos. You watch at your own pace. They're actually very good. You go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You sign up with Hillsdale College today, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up with Hillsdale College. You can take these classes at your own pace. It's just 6 of them. They're 30 minutes apiece. You'll be the most educated member of your friends when it comes to being able to discuss Ebenezer Scrooge and what it actually all means in A Christmas Carol. And then you can sign up and get in Primus completely free. In fact, you get so much from Hillsdale College completely free. They'd love to give you this course completely free as well. Go to Eric, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com today. Sign up, start a relationship with Hillsdale College. You'll be able to thank me later. Y'all, it's great stuff. This is a great series on A Christmas Carol. Go to ericforhillsdale.com today. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. We have an update from the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. 3 people have been killed. 7 others have been hurt. The shooter, a juvenile, is dead. The injured victims' conditions are not immediately clear. This is from the chief of police there. Just sad. Now being told actually it's they've now updated since just a few minutes ago, 5 of the people now dead here right before Christmas. A school shooting, an Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. These are the sorts of stories that we hate to bring, but have to bring to you. That's breaking news happening right now. School shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. The suspected shooter, a juvenile, is dead, along with 5 others and several injured. Ugh. When we come back, we will switch gears. We got a lot more to talk about.